I want to speak to you about something I observed again and again across my years of practice, something I saw in the consulting room, something I saw in the human soul, something most people spend their entire lives feeling, but never finding words for. There is a person in your life, someone you gave everything to, your warmth, your time, your understanding. You stayed when others left. You forgave what others could not forgive. You saw something beautiful in them, even when they had stopped seeing it in themselves. And yet, there was always something cold beneath the surface, a quiet hostility that lived just behind their eyes, a resentment that had no name. And one day, perhaps sitting alone in the silence that follows great pain, you understood something. They did not love your light. They feared it. And that fear turned slowly into something far more dangerous. Stay with me. Because what I am about to share with you reaches into the deepest layer of the human psyche, a place very few dare to look. The soul that feels everything. In my many decades of studying the human soul, I encountered a particular kind of person with unusual frequency. They came to me carrying what looked, on the surface, like ordinary pain, but underneath, I always found something extraordinary. These were people of enormous inner sensitivity. They did not merely hear what was spoken in a room, they heard what was not spoken. They did not simply observe the mood of another person, they absorbed it, the way a lake absorbs the rain, quietly, completely, without resistance. I came to understand that this is not a disorder, this is not pathology. This is one of the most developed capacities of the human psyche, a heightened attunement to the unconscious, not only their own unconscious, but the unconscious of others. These people feel the sorrow beneath a smile. They sense the anger that hides behind silence. They carry other people's unspoken grief in their own chest without even being asked. And nobody taught them this. It was simply how they arrived in the world. Now, I must ask you something. Does this sound familiar to you? If it does, then listen very carefully to what I am about to say, because this gift, this beautiful, exhausting, extraordinary gift of yours, it does not exist without consequence. Every light, I have found, produces a shadow, and the shadow your light produces does not live in you. It lives in the people who are not ready to see it. The shadow, the part of the soul we refuse to see. You spent the better part of my life studying what I called the shadow, and I will tell you plainly, it is the most dangerous and the most misunderstood aspect of the human soul. The shadow is not the darkness you are aware of. That, in fact, is easier to work with. The shadow is everything you have buried so deeply within yourself that you can no longer perceive it at all. The jealousy you never admitted, the ambition you were taught to be ashamed of, the grief that was never permitted to speak, the rage of a child who learned very early that certain feelings were not safe to feel. Every human being carries this, every single one. But here is what I observed, what surprised even me after decades in the consulting room. The most powerful activator of another person's shadow is not their own suffering. It is witnessing wholeness in someone else. Ride that again. Sit with it when someone who is deeply unconscious, deeply unacquainted with their own buried pain, stands in the presence of a person who feels freely, loves openly, and moves through the world with an unguarded soul. Something in them fractures, not from hatred, but from recognition. A recognition so painful the conscious mind cannot hold it. They see in you everything they once were, before they decided it was too dangerous to remain that way. You become, without meaning to, a mirror. And there are people in this world who will spend enormous energy, all of it unconscious, trying to shatter that mirror, not because you have done anything wrong, but because your very presence reminds them of the choice they made, the choice to shut the door on their own soul, the wound behind their resentment. Allow me to show you the inside of this, because understanding it, truly understanding it, will change the way you see every relationship that has ever confused or hurt you. Imagine a child who felt things very deeply, who cried at the suffering of others, who reached for connection instinctively, naturally, without shame. And then, because of a cold father, or a frightened mother, or simply the accumulated weight of a world that rewards hardness and punishes softness, this child learned something. Feeling is dangerous. Tenderness will be used against you. Sensitivity is weakness. And so, to survive, this child did what I have watched many people do across a long career. They went to work on their own soul. They buried the tenderness. They sealed the softness behind walls, so thick, so high, that in time they could no longer remember what was on the other side. And then this person, now grown, now armored, now proud of their armor, meets someone like you, and you are freely everything they secretly destroyed in themselves. You feel without apology. You love without strategy. You are soft in ways they cannot allow themselves to be. And in that moment, something happens that I call projection. They cannot look at their own buried shame, so they place it unconsciously, automatically, without any awareness, onto you. They call your empathy naivety. They call your openness foolishness. They call your sensitivity a form of manipulation. Do you understand what is truly happening here? They are not describing you. They are confessing themselves. Every criticism they level at your light is a map to the darkness they cannot face inside their own chest. This is not an excuse for them, but it is an explanation. And explanations, I have always believed, are the beginning of freedom. The pattern written in your own unconscious. Now I must turn the mirror toward you, not to cause pain, but because I believe, I have always believed, that the truth, however uncomfortable, is the only thing that truly sets us free. I want to ask you something, and I want you to answer it honestly, not to me, but to yourself. How many times has this happened? How many times have you given yourself completely to another person? Your understanding, your patience, your healing presence, only to feel in the end, that they quietly resented you for it. If this has happened more than once, and I suspect it has, then we must look not only at them, but at something within you. There is what I have come to call the unconscious script, a story written so early and so deep that we mistake it for simply the way life is. For those of great sensitivity, this script often reads something like this: if I love them enough, I can reach what is buried inside them. If I give enough, they will finally recognize my worth. If I stay patient long enough, their coldness will thaw. But I must tell you something I told many people who sat across from me in great pain. You cannot love someone into healing. You can offer the conditions. You can hold the space. You can refuse to abandon them before they abandon themselves. But healing requires the willingness of the one who must be healed, and you cannot provide that willingness for another person. I said once, and I meant every word of it, that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives, and we will call it fate. If you do not understand why you keep choosing people who resent your light, you will keep choosing them. Not because there is something broken in you, but because somewhere very deep, in a place you may not yet have had the courage to visit, you are still trying to prove something. Perhaps that you are worthy of love, even from those who do not have the capacity to give it. Perhaps that you can heal the wound in another that was never yours to heal in the first place. This is the pattern. And patterns, unlike fate, can be changed, but only when we see them with open eyes. Your light belongs to you. Firsty, want to say something now that I wish I had said more plainly and more often across my years of work. You are not responsible for the healing of others. You are not a vessel that exists to absorb what others cannot carry. You are not a lamp that must burn through the night so that others can find their way home. You are, first and last, a soul, a complete soul, with your own wounds that deserve tending, your own darkness that deserves acknowledgement, your own needs that are not weaknesses, but rather evidence of your full humanity. I devoted much of my life to what I called individuation, the long, difficult, extraordinary journey of becoming fully and authentically oneself. Not the self the world shaped out of fear, not the self built to please, to appease, to make others comfortable at the cost of your own truth, the real self, the soul beneath the persona. For those of great sensitivity, individuation demands one act of courage above all others, the act of reclaiming your light as your own, not to hoard it, not to withdraw it from the world, but to stop handing it, cheaply, compulsively, desperately, to those who were never equipped to receive it. This is not selfishness. This is self-knowledge. And self-knowledge, as I said once and will say again, is the beginning of all true wisdom. You were perhaps taught by painful early experience that your value exists only in what you give to others, that to need, to want, to claim space for your own soul is somehow wrong. I am telling you now, with the full weight of everything I have learned and lived and witnessed across a long life of looking into the human soul, That teaching was false. You are not a gift to be consumed. You are a soul to be met, the way through. Integration, so what, then, is the answer? How does one stop attracting those who resent the very light they were drawn to? I will tell you what I told every person who came to me carrying this particular exhaustion. The answer is not to build walls. Walls are the solution of the fearful. And I have found, without exception, that walls keep out very little of what we most wish to avoid, while keeping in a great deal of what we most wish to release. The answer is not to become cold. Coldness is not strength. It is only another name for old, unhealed pain wearing a mask. The answer is integration. You must turn with great honesty and with great courage toward the parts of yourself that you too have quietly abandoned, because those of great sensitivity are not without their own shadow. Your shadow may be the anger you never permitted yourself to feel, the boundary you never allowed yourself to draw, the word no that you swallowed again and again, because you feared that saying it would cost you love. Every time you denied these things, every time you abandoned your own needs to tend to someone who never once asked if you were all right, you gave a piece of your power away. And people who are unconscious, I have found, are remarkably skilled at collecting the power that others leave unguarded. Integration means reclaiming it. It means standing before yourself and saying, without apology, without self-judgment, I am allowed to feel what I feel. I am allowed to need what I need. I am allowed to withdraw my warmth from those who use it only to cast my light back at me as a weapon. And once you begin, truly begin, to do this, you will find that something in the world around you quietly shifts. You will begin to notice, earlier and more clearly, the difference between those who approach your light with wonder and those who approach it with hunger, those who grow warmer in your presence, and those who, no matter how much you give, grow only colder, more controlling, more quietly contemptuous. The first, cherish them. The second, release them, not with anger, not with judgment, but with the understanding that not every soul is meant to walk beside us, and that protecting your light from those who cannot bear it is not a failure of love, it is love's most courageous form. I said once, in the work that consumed much of my life, that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. I said it because I lived it, because I too had to descend into the shadow of my own soul and find the courage not to look away. And what I found there, what I have tried, in my own imperfect way, to pass forward, is this: when you fully accept yourself, when you stop apologizing for your depth, your sensitivity, your extraordinary capacity to feel what others do not feel, something in the world around you changes. The people who resented your light grow quiet. They move away, not because you drove them out, but because light, when it is fully owned by the one who carries it, can no longer be weaponized by the one who fears it. You stop shrinking. You stop mistaking another person's inability to receive your warmth for evidence that your warmth is too much. It was never too much. It simply found the wrong vessel, and slowly, I say this with the certainty of long experience, the right people begin to find you. Not those who need rescuing by your light, but those who carry their own. And when two souls who have done the honest, painful work of becoming themselves finally find each other, that is not merely love. That is what I spent my life searching for a word worthy of. That is wholeness. If something in these words stirred something in you, something that had no name before now, share them with someone whose soul needs to hear it. The work of knowing ourselves is never finished. Come back. We will go deeper.